Hello everyone and welcome back to AmmoMart.com, where you can find real firepower online. It's been a little bit since we've actually done any shooting videos due to Mother Nature in the winter, but spring has sprung. It's a beautiful day in Northwest Ohio, so it's a great day to be back on the range and spend a little time with you. In a previous video, we talked about the .40 caliber Smith & Wesson, not only its history, but where it fit in today's concealed carry market. It's been interesting to watch the comments on our videos. It has been our most popular one and the most divisive. Not a surprise to gun enthusiasts that .40's either loved or hated depending on the individual that you're talking to. What we've done today is set up our ballistic gel. For those of you that have seen our videos before, you're pretty familiar with our setup. And what we would like to do is test some various sized, meaning by grain weight, projectiles and see what kind of penetration we get, over penetration perhaps, and see how the test goes as compared to the 9mm. One of the arguments that I always hear from people that are anti-.40 Smith & Wesson shooters is that 9mm ammunition has advanced so much. Why do you need a .40? That always kind of brought me to pause, because I have to wonder, does that mean the .40 Smith & Wesson technology as far as bullet creation, that mean it wasn't developed? It's a little confusing. I don't believe that's true. In fact, I think that .40 Smith & Wesson bullets have been developed right along with 9mm. What I'd like to start with when we have some clean ballistic gel is a wonderful round made by Ruger, and it's a 97 grain ARX bullet. And I'll try to get a good view of it for our camera. And you can see it's a very strange construction, very strange appearance, and it's polymer that's encased over the projectile. What I'm hoping to demonstrate is that that 97 grain projectile is awfully effective as compared to some of the more conventional 165 and 180 grain projectiles. So without further ado, let me load up the ARX rounds and we'll see what happens with clean ballistic gel. As always, to FBI standard. The weapon we're going to use first is a full-size CZ75 Tactical Sport. This particular weapon has a 5.5-inch barrel. And hopefully I got a good view of this for the camera. This is the 97 grain ARX round. Interesting looking little round. Let's put it into some clean ballistic gel. Here comes a 97 grain ARX round into clean ballistic gel. And per the usual, we've lost our clothes, but now I don't have to pick them up. And it would appear this is about 16 or so inches. You have the projectile. Looks like it remained completely intact with no mushrooming. Decent temporary cavity, lots of shockwave, and a relatively pristine projectile. Now we have our Glock Model 27, 3.75-inch barrel, 97 grain ARX round again. And we're going to go directly across from the CZ shot. Might be difficult to tell at home, but you do have, of course, two projectiles in the cavity. They penetrated to relatively the same amount. However, this one does not appear to be in near as good a shape. And we'll dig them out and hopefully give you a picture of them at the end of the video so you can kind of see what actually did happen to the projectile. Continuing on with the test, what I'm going to do is load up a 165 grain Winchester PDX-1 Defender round. 165 grain is interesting related to .40 Smith & Wesson. I think it's probably a better performing bullet than the 180. However, it does give you slightly more felt recoil. So now we'll try to stay directly below the first CZ shot. And there went our weighted log. As you can tell, here's your mangled up projectile, massive cavity here. Took a little bit of a tumbler and it looks like it's awfully nasty. What I'm finding interesting right now is how everyone has always at least on the chat rooms talked about how 40 has a tendency to over-penetrate. I got to tell you, with the jacketed hollow points or self-defense rounds, certainly does not look like that to me. So I have 2 more 165 grain Winchester rounds. I'm going to try to put them in relatively the same area as the first shot and see if we can't come up with more of a overall average for the 3 rounds. So you can see the 3 lower bullet entries. The top one, of course, was the 97 grain ARX round. So we have 3 impacts. And 1, 2 projectiles that are quite expanded and mangled, which is exactly what one would hope for. And you'll notice, I'm hoping you can detect this line right here was an exit to the side, and it penetrated roughly the same as the other distance, or the other 2 before it exited the gel. And you'll notice some awfully impressive looking cavities there. 165 grain Winchester PDX appears to be quite an effective round, and 16 inches right at the end of the 18-inch limit for the FBI test. Very nice bullet. And very comfortable to shoot out of that large CZ75. Now, what we'll do is the same demonstration out of a Glock Model 27, also using 165 grain Winchester PDX, and we'll see if there's any significant performance difference with a 3.75 inch barrel as compared to the 5.5 of the CZ. The 165 grain went slightly less distance than out of the longer barrel. You can see it here, but did expand and mangle and made it just about as far as the 97 grain Ruger. Oh, neat. This one in the middle is actually, if you can see this, it's actually now linking the 2 pieces of gelatin. It's exactly half. And if you had the ability, hope that you can see with my head cam, that's a really, really cool result. Once I get the test all complete, I'll show you what it looked like when we pull it apart. Really cool. So I'm going to turn this gelatin around so when we use our 180 grain projectiles, we're starting with some clean gelatin, but this was really, really neat. If you can see, hopefully that projectile's actually going to fall out because it was linked between the 2. And wow, Winchester should be proud of that. Anybody that had any idea whether PDX was a good round, brother, I would say it definitely is. For the next part of our demonstration related to stopping power, I'm going to use a 180 grain round. This one happens to be a round called the Golden Saber from Remington. 180 grain, kind of a flashy looking guy. Let's see what happens when we compare 165 to 180. I did flip the gelatin around so we have a relatively clean surface, and we'll go 3 just like we did for 165. CZ75. All right, guys, so you can see this is our 180 grain. It penetrated maybe an inch or less more than the 165. All 3 of the bullets expanded. They look incredibly good, just like they do in the ads. And you can tell some pretty impressive cavities back here. Definitely around you don't want to get on the business end of. But not over penetration. Well within FBI standard. All right, guys, same test out of the Glock 27. Once again, 3.75 inch barrel. The 165 grain had no significant difference. Let's see if adding weight to the projectile makes a difference with a smaller barrel. out of the Glock. Slightly less penetration, but awfully darn close. As I stated before, we will dig these out of here and keep them all separate so you guys can view them at home. We have, this was the first one, little less penetration than the other two, which are, if you can kind of tell, sort of down here. No significant distance with a shorter barrel related to penetration. And it does look like the ammunition performed as it's supposed to with lots of expansion. 40 Smith & Wesson with jacketed hollow points does not overpenetrate. If you buy quality ammunition in a jacketed hollow point, as you can tell, you get exactly what you want. Lots of cavity, lots of expansion, and this guy is mushroomed out exactly as you would want. Really, really quality ammo. In this section of the video, what we're going to try to demonstrate is how controllable a 40 caliber round can actually be. What I've done is assembled a 165 grain full metal jacket round. I'm going to shoot the rounds out of a CZ75 full-size tactical sport, great gun, and then I'm going to cut down to a Glock, very popular concealed carry gun, and we'll see how it goes. So I've assembled 9 rounds in each one of the magazines. And maybe if we can time this out and put a little counter on the video, we'll see how quickly one can do a mag dump with a 40 caliber concealed carry weapon as well as a full size. So let's see how it goes. Starting with the CZ. I believe all 9 hit, but have to time it out. So now we're going to try the same exercise with 9 rounds in our Glock Model 27. I haven't shot this gun for a while, so hopefully I'll be able to do it some justice. So that was a mag dump, and what some would consider a worst case scenario with the 40 Smith & Wesson in 165 grain out of a very small gun. I can tell you that even though it's been a while since I've shot that particular model, it all came back pretty quickly. The gun is very controllable if you spend some time learning how to actually control it. Be interesting when we time all of this out with a stopwatch to see what the difference in elapsed time was. Bearing in mind, the tactical sport is much more expensive and it does have a way better trigger. In our previous video related to the stopping power of 9mm, we shot the gun at 50 meters or 164 feet just to see how much penetration we would get. And if you're not familiar with that video, we absolutely proved that 9mm is effective at 50 meters using a ball round. We'd like to try to duplicate that test today using a 165 grain full metal jacket round for the 40 Smith & Wesson. This ammo was provided to us by Buffalo Cartridge, and as well as the Glock 27 you saw in the previous demonstration, their sister company, Buffalo Trading Company, provided the guns, and we'd like to thank them very much for that. They're a good friend of the show. So let's see what happens. 50 meters, 165 grain, full metal jacket. So at 50 meters, the round kind of kicked to the side a couple of times, so it's difficult to get a really good penetration test on it. But as you can see when we take the gel, or take a look at the gel, lots of penetration even at 50 meters. One of the things I would like to leave the audience with is this. 40 Smith & Wesson is an effective stopper. It is controllable. Now, obviously the question is going to be, how much more effective is it than any other bullet on the market? Well, unfortunately, the jury's always going to remain out on that. We can go round and round and round and round all the live long day. But what I would tell you is, during worldwide pandemic and states of civil unrest, 40 Smith & Wesson ammo was the last stuff on the shelf. And when you're competing with every other person that wants a 9mm, there is an intrinsic value built into that alone. And with some practice, the round is controllable, even in an everyday carry platform. Thank you for watching this demonstration. Don't be afraid to like and subscribe. We'd like to end our video today by showing what a little bit of jacketed hollow points from a 40 Smith & Wesson will do to a chicken. We're going to start with a 97 grain ARX round from Ruger, followed by 165 and then 180 grain. So, once again, with the ARX round right down the middle. Looks like ARX is pretty effective. Instant vaporized poultry. I love it.